Ladies and gentlemen, dear students of the European Union, good morning.
Καλημέρα σε όλους.
Hola.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, good morning, everybody.
We are honored to be part of the European Union.
We are feeling very honored to be here standing in front of 600 more students from different countries.
We also wanted to congratulate Mr. Tajani for winning the presidency of the European Parliament.
Ever since we were children, we have been taught that family is the most powerful social group. Today, I realize that we create families all over around the globe, because a family is not defined just by blood, but the dreams and the goals are the ones that united. Having the same destination, a brighter future, allowed people to create this family, the European Union.
Comme vous le savez probablement déjà, à cause de notre relation parfois tumultueuse avec le Royaume-Uni, ainsi que notre sortie imminente de l'Union européenne grâce au Brexit. Notre avenir au sein de la communauté européenne est incertain. Celle-ci est très inquiétante pour notre génération. Malgré tout, c'est avec grand plaisir que nous avons été invités. Au moment de ma collège, je vous remercie pour cet événement. Nous espérons vous voir adhérer dans le futur. Merci et bonne journée.
But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. 'Tis I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so.
As I was told, since 1999, I have been here in this parliament dealing mostly with aspects of foreign policy, in general foreign policy. In particular, I'm the spokesperson of my political group on security and defense. I'm also the chairman of the delegation for relations with the Pan-African Parliament. And now I'm shutting up and listening to your questions and trying to answer them.
After the recent referendum in Britain, the EU is preparing for the Brexit and is negotiating its terms. Do you believe, or is there any evidence of other countries likely to leave the EU? Do you think the EU is losing its power?
I don't foresee further steps out, and the British referendum was also not something 90-10 or 80-20, but it was 52-48. So it was a narrow thing, but the majority is the majority. I take note, I regret it. I do not see others leaving because I think it will be a very a negative example what the results are. I don't think that any country that leaves in these stormy days, it's like if you have a picture, you are on a big ship, on a big tanker in a stormy sea, and then somebody takes a small boat and leaves the big ship and tries it on its own. Perhaps that is a bit the image that I have, and the Commonwealth or the great history and the empire and pomp and circumstance won't help. The reality is that anybody who goes it alone, I think, will at the end face the consequences. And I think many are aware of that. And I do not want to reduce it to the financial aspects, but that is, of course, a relevant one as well. The majority of member states are also net recipients from the EU budget, so they would really be stupid if they, even if it were only financial reasons, if they thought of leaving. Now, that was not the case for Britain. Britain was a net payer, and that was one of the arguments. But I think also those who remain, who are net payers, I don't see a majority in these countries to leave. There are tendencies in all of them. We have it in France, we have it the Netherlands. We have it. There are even some in Denmark or Sweden. Well, virtually everywhere. But I think reason will prevail if you look on the map, and especially the smaller states. Who are they alone? But I say anybody of us. Who is anybody of us alone? In the given circumstances. So I do really not see it, and certainly not if the global situation, if the crisis, if the challenges that we are faced from Putin's Russia, from Erdogan in Turkey, from a new President Trump, where we don't know what he really thinks and will really don't know what he does. It's better to stick together than to think that there is any perspective alone.
Now, most of the discussions taking place right now about the European Union concern the inner workings and structural issues. And at the same time, we face political unrest in Bosnia and Herzegovina and calls for war from the president of Serbia, Mr. Nikolic, regarding Kosovo and Metohija. And so my question is, the last time we had such political rhetoric in Europe was in the 90s, when we had a bloody war in the Balkans, in the heart of Europe. Europe was also preoccupied with itself at the time, with the signing of the Maastricht treaties and the German reunification. Today, we face pretty much the same question with the Brexit. Europe is occupied with itself. So my question is, will Europe find political courage to stop bloodshed in the Balkans and to impose stability in the region, which is of direct interest to Croatia, which is a member state?
Well, I thank you very much for this question. And accidentally, I just wrote something on this very issue in Facebook as a reply to a colleague from my national parliament, who said very clearly we should not hide away from answering the upcoming challenge. And when you look at Bosnia-Herzegovina, and you look there at the Republika Srpska and at Mr. Dodik, who has been for a while the head there, the responsible guy, I'm very much concerned about his imminent plans. We have seen already some months ago a test case. He had a referendum, seemingly unspectacular, on whether or not to have a commemoration day for the foundation of the Republika Srpska. Was it 9th of January 91 or whenever? And the Constitutional Court in Sarajevo forbid this, declared that illegal, because it was, so to say, a divisive referendum instigating different population groups against each other. So he did not follow, and he realized it and got the usual 90-something or 98 or how many % in favor. Now, that was only the test run, and he said it. So we are faced with a situation where a challenge is announced, and my answer is, we as European Union, we are the guarantors of the integrity of Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Mr. Dodik don't dare to go there. What we have to know is, in these circumstances, 3 days prior to this referendum, he went to Moscow and to Mr. Putin to get some backup there. It is not necessarily, although Nikolic might say something now, but it is not Belgrade who is pushing them primarily, because Belgrade wants to come to the European Union. So it's not in their interest to argue about disintegrating Bosnia-Herzegovina. But it is certainly Russia's interest to perhaps to seek another destabilizing area in the heart of Europe. And I think we should not let it happen. I'm very clear on that. In the very day, if we let it happen, he will get his 99% in favor. On the next day, he will declare unilateral declaration of independence. On the same day, the Russians will recognize it and send their green men in to set up another frozen conflict. That is my prediction. And we are in a position not to let it happen by preventing such a referendum that would break up Bosnia-Herzegovina. And I think that is the task that we are facing, and we have to address it.
Ronan from the United Kingdom. I would just like to know what the European Union's attitude is to the United Kingdom following the Brexit vote. You can appreciate also that as young people, we're extremely worried about our future, both in Europe and in the United Kingdom, because we didn't get a vote. Us especially representing Northern Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland both voted unanimously almost to stay in the European Union. And I'd like to know if the European Union is going to be open to extending European privileges to the people that wanted to remain as part of Europe, especially young people who didn't have their say.
I'm very much aware that, like Scotland, also Northern Ireland, with a majority voted to remain, and we are grateful for that. And I think people in Northern Ireland know what the European Union has also contributed also to the peace process, not not sitting on the table, but with all the financial means that we have accompanied the peace process and to overcome the social rift in Northern Ireland that we have seen. We are in a difficult situation with regard from our side to add or to have special relations with Scotland and Northern Ireland. I mean, because our contact or our negotiation partner is, of course, the government in London. You are aware of the options that exist for Northern Ireland. There is an option to have a referendum to join the Republic. Then you could stay. That would be the easiest. You are even, if it were that it happened, I'm not suggesting it, that's not my job. Northern Ireland could in an easy way stay in the Union, joining the Republic, and like East Germany that had an easy access through the backstage, joining West Germany and being automatically in. We are faced with the recent speech from Prime Minister May, which will result in this so-called hard Brexit. It will not be part of the single market and of the customs union. I have, difficulty to imagine how this Scottish and Northern Irish wish perhaps to stay in the single market, how that could be realized, so to say, technically. Perhaps even Northern Ireland would be more easy because it is a separate island and you would be together with Ireland customs-wise. But I don't think that the government in London would accept that the United Kingdom would politically be united but economically be in different customs or single market circumstances. That's hard for me to imagine. So we are set, I'm afraid, for this Brexit once the Article 50 is triggered. Then we have the 2 years. Everybody can, in a process, become more clever or reconsider it. So Britain could at any stage end the process by saying, okay, we've made up our mind. Currently, that is not the case. But if the consequences became clear and not sensible, that the people would really feel it, that there is less new investment, that there is more inflation, that there is less economic growth, if that were, and if there were then a growing tendency in Scotland and Northern Ireland to go it alone, I think that would be the trigger perhaps to say, okay, if the result is as it is, we go back to the people again. And in the light of what is, and not is what is perceived, but what is really felt and what the facts are, then we reconsider it.
Do you see European Union as a federal state?
The question is big, the answer is a bit more complicated. I see us as and it's good that we call it a union, because union is not a legal term other than federal state or federation or central state or something like that. I think when we look at the competences of the European Union, we have it all. We have areas where the European Union is already a central state, for instance in agriculture, because there is the exclusive competence. And we have areas where we are nothing at all. We have no competence when it is about the curricula in your schools. And in between, we have different levels of competences which are more federal or more federated or more on the subsidiarity issues where some competences are assumed. I'm aware that the word federal itself has completely different meanings in different countries, especially the debate in Britain that we have always seen. When they used the word federal, for them it was central. In Germany, the word federal means just the opposite, because federal republic means we are not a central republic, but federal, the federated states, the 16, they were even there before the Federal Republic. They were all founded in 46 and 47, but the Federal Republic only in 49. So for us it means it is not a central state, a centralized state. In Britain it is used just the opposite way, meaning superstate. So as I said, I'm happy to have this term union, which makes it possible to have strong competences in some areas and no competences in others, and still work together. Currently, I would say we are in a process where security and defense grows more and more into operational European politics. Yes, it is still intergovernmental, but we are adding more and more, so to say, community competence and things to this policy, also because we don't know how it goes on with NATO, with this new president, and whether we can leave it us ourselves at the discretion of the US or not. So there is a development now where in this area, which was before almost no European competence, we are growing into European competence. So I think I would like to have this flexibility, and that goes only with such a very unclear term like union, because it leaves us all the options to do more or less, or centralize it or decentralize it, or leave it all without the competence.
In order to promote sustainable development, we propose: replace plastic bags with paper bags in retail stores and eventually stop selling plastic bags at all. Price carbon in a way that makes fossil fuels more expensive than clean energy, through a scheme that limits total carbon-based energy or through a direct tax on carbon-based energy. Incentives such as tax credits for companies that are increasing their energy efficiency and investing in renewables. We also propose to discuss environmental issues in schools, integrating problems such as greenhouse effect or global warming into the subjects and the school system of every member state. Finally, we propose advertising campaigns that explain in a way that every citizen can understand the phenomena like greenhouse effect, global warming, and the consequences of every citizen's daily actions in pollution.
Freedom of expression, it is important. Firstly, we agreed, the majority agreed that it shouldn't be restricted. It was very difficult and only a few proposals, and we discussed mainly about the importance of the fundamental rights, and we believe that they should be included in primary and secondary education. Thank you.
I feel that looking at recent history, even in the last century, that restricting human rights was never a good idea. Like, let's even look at fascist Italy going on in 1923. They restricted human rights in a fascist Italy came on, and even in 1933 in Germany, a Nazi Germany came on. Like, in history it shows that it hasn't really worked. Why would it be acceptable now in the 21st century?
That's why we are not saying that maybe the government has the power to limit the freedom of expression, because it can be abused. Again, that's dictatorship, basically. And that's why it should be through education and through socialization, and not through giving it a legislative power to like stop it and put it, and you will be penalized on it, because it can be abused.
All of us agreed that the European Union has the responsibility to help less fortunate countries. We are taking natural resources from these countries, and we are exploiting people in terms of cheap labor. What we need to do to tackle this matter is to implement import taxes for big companies, such as factories that are exploiting third world workers, in order to make these companies have bigger expenses, which means they will need to have bigger prices for their products and to pay their employees more. Also, we need to have stricter environment and safety rules to provide more humane environment for these workers. we need to support sustainable development in developing countries. Furthermore, we need to provide European citizens with information on where their money from the taxes that they are paying is going and how is it helping developing countries in order to motivate them even more to help countries in need. Also, we need to strengthen the EU itself by funding countries that are in a financial crisis so that it could help other developing countries that are not part of the EU. Also, we should give more attention to potential candidates of the EU so that we could build a stronger Europe that is more able to help countries that are not part of it. Thank you.
We must do two things, one regarding the interior policy of the Union and the other regarding its foreign policy. When it comes to interior policy, the structure, the inner working of the Union, we found that the most important tie that bounds all member states together is economy. And that is something we should pursue in a way that economic ties between member states should be enhanced. Now, how do we intend to do that? We all know that European Union is in charge of enormous funds. We want those funds to be apportioned right the way they need to be, in a way that each member state gets exactly the amount of money for the things it needs. To do this, we propose that the European Parliament votes on a comprehensive strategy of economic policy that would include a general part, broad guidelines and goals for the entire Union, as well as specific, tailor-made propositions and strategies tailored to needs of specific member states. That way we reflect what is the best thing about Europe, unity and diversity. Because we all do strive for a common goal, yet we need to achieve it through different means, depending on how each country has different economies.
The group then discussed on how far should European laws dictate foreign cultural aspects, case in point being the burqa. We agreed that they should freely be allowed to express their religious beliefs and customs, however, only unless it is both an ethical and legal balance, which means respecting the laws of the country they're in, especially in places of security and such cases as the burqa could disguise individuals. It was also brought up that we must distinguish between religion and culture. However, we agreed that laws should not violate such religious beliefs, though certain cultural aspects which violate Western values should be prohibited.
So the first was to introduce a market sign for promoting youth employment, just as the fair trade system. This would mean that companies would have the chance to employ young people, and therefore they would receive a stamp or a mark, as we think about it, that shows that they do employ young people and they show their support for the younger generation as well. With this, this would bring a natural support by the customers, as their people could have preferences, choosing different kind of products, displaying this certain sign.
In the European Union, especially in Spain, unfortunately, we have many young people who don't want to study or either to work. What do you suggest to do with them? Thank you.
I think this all can be solved by informing people and by the really start of their education, to suggest them that working is something really precious, and being a part of your work community as somebody who works for them is really something that should be prized. I think we should make changes, or we should amend changes that help to get to really young people, like at the age of 10 or so, to help this whole way of thinking. Thank you for your question.